Hello, travelers, and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. Today, I'm taking you on a journey to five of Iceland's most breathtaking waterfalls that you can visit without breaking a sweat. Whether you're just short on time or you don't like hiking, these waterfalls are going to be absolutely perfect for you. Don't forget to stick around all the way to the end of the video to get my essential waterfall chasers packing list for Iceland to make sure you can get the most out of each of your visits. For those of you who are joining me for the first time here, welcome. My name's Carrie, and I'm so glad that you decided to check out this video. My goal is to share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so that you can always have the perfect trip. And with this video today, I want to make sure that you have an absolutely awesome experience at all five of these waterfalls. Now, something to keep in mind about these waterfalls is that they are a bit spread out. Technically, if you look on Google Maps, you can visit all of them in about 7.5 hours of drive time, but that may be a little intense and you're going to skip a lot in between. So Gulfoss is a great one to explore while you're on a Golden Circle tour. It's a very popular trip to take. It is one of the highlights. Skogafoss and Seljalandsfoss are great stops for a South Coast trip. They're two of the highlights there. They're very easy to hit as you go visit some other stuff like the Hraunfossar Black Sand Beach or the nearby glacier, etc. Hraunfossar is a good one to visit if you're exploring Bordernes. That day we ended up hitting a few museums, but we also hit the Dilda Dunvager hot spring. It's like the most powerful hot spring in Europe. It smells like boiled eggs, so keep that in mind. But there was a little less of like a popular route there, but it's definitely worth the trip. And lastly, Kirkjufellsfoss is part of the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, so that is pretty easy to hit if you're exploring that area. I do have a guide from just a couple weeks ago that details how you can explore that whole area in just a day, and that waterfall and the Kirkjufell Mountain are on the list, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. First up, Hraunfossar. Now, unlike most waterfalls, this is actually an extensive series of cascades coming directly out of a lava field. It is such a cool contrast to see this dark black and brown dried lava rock and all of a sudden this bright white and blue water coming out. This is one of the best examples we saw in Iceland of that just vibrant blue water that you may think of with the Blue Lagoon from all of the silica in the water. It is absolutely stunning. You can see it in the videos here. It almost looks like it's CGI'd or something out of a fantasy novel, but I can tell you right now, what's on your screen isn't even close to how beautiful it is in person. This is just absolutely phenomenal. You can literally see these views in about a 30-second walk from the parking lot. There's a very nice trail that will lead you right along the falls, looking out across them at the river. There's also a short path that you can follow around to a couple different parts of these falls. One will lead you up some rocks so you can get a bit of a higher overview from the side, and then there's one that leads you around to another overlook point where there's another waterfall coming from a different direction. Again, everything is just this beautiful bright blue. It is so stunning. If you happen to be bringing your drone to Iceland, you are in luck because Hraunfossar is one of the few popular spots that you can actually fly your drone at. As you can see from our videos here, the views from above are absolutely stunning, so definitely take that opportunity if you get it, but be sure to be respectful of others visiting here as well. It really doesn't take long to visit this whole area, but there's a good chance you're just going to want to take things slow just to soak in the scenery. We ended up taking a break with our group to go eat lunch at the restaurant on site, and then we ran right back out because we wanted to see more of this while we were here. So don't feel rushed. This is an absolutely beautiful spot, and out of the waterfalls that we visited, this was probably the second least busiest. So it's a great spot just to enjoy the Icelandic nature, take your time, and really ingrain the site into your memory. Next up is the powerful Skogafoss. Now, this is one of the most photographed waterfalls in Iceland and is pretty impressive. It actually has one of the highest straight drops at 60 meters, and you can walk right up to the base of this waterfall and just hear how powerful it is. It is absolutely crazy, but it is so beautiful. Now, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you may recognize this. I've been told it is featured in the series as a double waterfall. So they took Skogafoss and then they copied it. But apparently, if you see it in real life, you'll recognize it. So that may be a fun stop for you if you like the show. But regardless, this is just a beautiful spot to visit. You can see it from the parking lot, and it just gets more impressive as you walk down the short path there. If you visit on a sunny day, you may even get to see it with a rainbow or two. On our visit, there was a double rainbow, and it was one of the most magical sights of my life. I love waterfalls, I love rainbows. Together, they were absolute magic. And if you are up for a little bit of extra adventure, there is a hiking path off to the right of the waterfall. It is a bit challenging, but it'll take you all the way up to the top of the waterfall, and then you can look down on it and get a view from that perspective as well. This next waterfall is actually just a few minutes down the road from Skogafoss, and that's Seljalandsfoss. This is another absolutely iconic waterfall that you can't miss. You have probably seen pictures of this all over social media, and it deserves the attention because it is absolutely stunning. Now, what makes this particular waterfall so popular, particularly in the summer, is that there's actually a path behind the waterfall, so you can walk behind the waterfall and get some absolutely awesome shots. But keep in mind, if you visit in winter, which we did, that path is closed because it's icy and they don't want you falling in and freezing to death, which is, a good goal. So keep in mind, if this is something you want to do, you may want to visit once the weather warms up and that path is open again. I will tell you from personal experience that even in the winter, this waterfall is absolutely beautiful and so worth your time. This is also another one where when the weather is right, you can get a rainbow or two. I was absolutely shocked when we got a double rainbow here as well. It was absolutely crazy, but it just added so much to this view. Not that it needed any help, but who am I to say no to a double rainbow? This is another waterfall that you can literally see from the parking lot, but you have like a 2-minute walk to actually get to the base of the falls, so it's not hard at all. There are also some extra walking paths just kind of along the cliffs there. There's a little bridge, so you can do a bit more exploring if you want to, but it is not required. And just a quick tip, because this is such a popular waterfall, same thing with Skogafoss, I would highly recommend that you visit either early in the morning or toward the end of the day. Most people are going to come midday, afternoon, early afternoon. If you visit at either end of that, you're going to have a lot less people. It's going to be a lot easier to take pictures and just enjoy the view with no one else to bother you. Another one of Iceland's most photographed waterfalls is Kirkjufellsfoss. This is one I talked about a couple weeks ago in my video about the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. And the reason this particular waterfall is so popular is because the Kirkjufell mountain is just red in the background. This is a very iconic Iceland photo duo, so you've probably seen this on your social media at some point. It's often pictured in this vibrant green with the water pouring over the waterfalls, and it is so beautiful. Honestly, it looks like something right out of a fantasy novel, which is probably why this mountain was also featured in the Game of Thrones. This is one of the longer walks from the parking lot to the waterfall, but again, it's going to take maybe 4 to 5 minutes. You will park off to the side, walk down a little trail, cross a bridge that goes right over the falls, and then you can walk down beside the waterfall. It has a couple different tiers, so make sure that you go all the way down to the bottom, because if you stop at the first area, which a lot of people in our group did, you only get half the effect. Now, we also visited this in winter, so we got quite a different experience from what we saw on social media. And I will say I would love to go back and see this in its full summer glory. But I also loved the super Iceland winter view we got of this. The mountain was covered in snow. The waterfall was mostly frozen. It had like this icy shell, and you could see the water flowing underneath the shell of ice. But that was such a unique experience for me, especially as someone who lives in Virginia right now and we hardly ever get snow or ice. It was just cool to have that interesting visual impact. Another thing to keep in mind just when planning your visit, you're going to get a different experience in different seasons, so be sure you plan accordingly. This is also the only other waterfall on this list that you can fly a drone at. All the others have no drone signs, so even if you see people doing it on social media, please be respectful and follow the signs. If not, you could get a fine. At the very least, there's a chance you're going to be annoying people because there's not great spots to take off or land your drone. Last, but certainly not least, is Gulfoss. Now, this is one of the most popular spots on the Golden Circle route, which you might have heard of if you're already researching Iceland. The power of this waterfall is honestly enough to just stop you in your tracks. Now, I haven't been to Niagara Falls. I know I need to, but this is one of the most powerful waterfalls in Iceland, and just the sheer size and volume of it is mind-blowing to me. It comes down this really broad river. It's two-tiered, but when it makes that second drop, it just goes and it splits. So it has falls going down into what looks like a crack, basically, in the earth. Like it comes down and then it splits and all just roars down into there. There is so much just frothing water. It is absolutely insane. Now, you can see this waterfall with just a very short walk from the parking lot. However, there are a couple extra little hiking paths that you can take around it. They don't take very long, but they will definitely require a little more work than just walking on the main visitor path. But I think they are 100% worth it. You'll get some very beautiful extra views of the falls from just these different angles. There's also one that leads you down to an outlook that's right by the waterfall. Most of the other ones are kind of up above, so you'll get this aerial view, but the other path is closed when it's icy. So, of course, when we visited first thing in the morning, we had the falls all to ourselves, but they did go down and check that path and they had to keep it closed because it was icy. So, once again, seasonal experiences may vary. I will also say this was the coldest I was on our entire trip to Iceland. There's just so much water here in the spray, and we were visiting in April, which there is still very cold. This is the only place we visited the whole trip where I was actively shivering. You can see in my pictures, I was bundled up to the absolute max, hat on, hood up, gloves on, trying to take pictures with my hand shaking through my gloves. So be sure to dress appropriately here, especially if you're visiting in winter. And as promised, I want to wrap up this video by talking about what you need to pack to make your waterfall chasing in Iceland as enjoyable as possible. Icelandic weather can be very unpredictable, so you want to make sure that you're ready for anything. First and foremost, you're going to want a waterproof jacket or coat and pants. The spray from these falls can literally drench you in seconds, especially the ones where you're standing at the base, like Skogafoss and Seljalandsfoss. It is no joke. And trust me, the last thing you want, especially if you're visiting in the winter, is to be soaked from head to toe for your whole day of exploration. You can see in this video here, I had on my waterproof coat. We bought ski coats specifically for this trip, and it was covered in water. You can see it on my face and my eyelashes, and that was before I even got close to the base of Skogafoss, by the way. So that spray just rolls away from the bottom of these falls, and especially on a day where there's even a little bit of wind, that's going to carry even farther. And so it is so easy just to get soaked. So make sure you're prepared against that with an entirely waterproof outer layer. Speaking of waterproof, don't forget really good waterproof or water resistant boots. Because of that powerful spray, the ground here is often wet or muddy or even slippery, especially if it's winter. So you don't want soggy feet and you want good traction just to make sure you're not going to slip. I wore my Keds camp boots. Those are like my go-to boots for any sort of cold weather adventure. They are very warm. They're highly water resistant and they just worked out great. I wore them the entire time in Iceland. Those are the only shoes I wore. And then my husband just had his own pair of waterproof hiking boots, so highly recommend. Even in the summertime, Iceland can get pretty chilly and very fast and suddenly, so it's never a bad idea to pack warm layers and gloves that you can just pull out if and when you need them. Like I mentioned with Gulfoss, I was shocked at how frozen to the bone I was when I'd been gallivanting around all week just fine. But we stepped out there and I was so glad I had my hat, my coat, my gloves. So you just never know, and it's better to be safe than sorry. I also recommend bringing some snacks and a reusable water bottle because some of these falls are a bit isolated from other things like restaurants. It may be hard to find food, so if you get snacky, you can just pull out whatever you brought and enjoy that while you take in the view. And since all the water in Iceland is safe to drink, if you have your reusable water bottle, you'll have easy access to water all day long. And last, camera gear protection. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are bringing your phone or your nice camera anywhere near these falls, protect them. Daniel's phone got so wet just from taking like 20 seconds of pictures at the base of Seljalandsfoss that it started like malfunctioning. It was giving him all these error messages and it did not charge for a concerningly long time because there was water in the port. So protect your phone, get a waterproof case, or even one of those bags that like you might put your phone in for the beach. That would not be like an insane thing to do here. That would be smart. If you have a nice camera as well, you want to make sure that's protected. If you have some sort of waterproof case or like a rain cover for your camera, that'll be really smart. I did not have that with me. I was probably a little more cavalier with it than I should have been. And then after we stepped away from Seljalandsfoss, I was like, oh my goodness, this is wet. So I was trying to dry it real quick. That could have been very, very bad. So don't do what I did. Go in prepared, protect your camera. If you're not taking pictures with it, like actively, I would put it away. It's just better to be safe than sorry, especially if you set aside enough time to enjoy these falls. It shouldn't be an issue to be taking your camera in and out as needed, so just be smart. And that is how to visit 5 of Iceland's most popular waterfalls without taking a hike. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you with your planning. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those below. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. If you want more information about these waterfalls, you can check out my blog at www.cochranrunning.com to get a full written explanation of this adventure as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more travel tips and adventures before you go. And until next time, happy travels.